Okay, hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Isaiah at RG Podcast, joined with a very special guest, Ex-Fundy. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Ex-Fundy Stacie.
Hi.
And how are you doing today?
I'm
Tonight?
good. How are you? Yeah.
All right. You calling out of Canada?
I am.
Yeah. How'd you like that intro, by the way?
I liked it. It's really cool. Yeah.
Actually, I was just thinking maybe it seems a little bit threatening because it's like all like sparks and everything.
No, I liked it.
It was definitely not the kind of conversations we like to have. Maybe I need a little friendlier intro. But that being said, I do want to thank you very much for joining me today. Hopefully, can have a nice, respectful, and empathetic conversation.
Mhm.
But before we do, we like to have a little friendly fire round and just ask you some random questions.
Sure.
And so, you ready for that?
Yep.
Okay.
Never had a fire round of anything, so.
All right. You ready? Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Try to answer these as quickly as possible.
Okay.
All right. So if you had to live out like a romance from I don't want to say chick, but from a girl flick, what romance would you like to live out? And don't say The Notebook because that's everyone's.
Oh, that's what popped in my head. Okay. Was that so typical? Okay, I just started listening again to the soundtrack of A Walk to Remember this week. It just popped up in my head. And that's with Matthew Moore.
Okay, never mind. Then you lost me there. But okay, I was thinking of another one. Okay.
So that one was. I mean, I wouldn't want to die at the end, but that was a pretty special.
She dies. Spoiler alert.
Sorry, but I mean, it's 20 years ago. So.
Okay. All right. So what is your favorite children's cereal?
My favorite. Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And what is like a ideal date night with your husband?
Right now, one of our favorite things is to go to the brew pub and have a flight of beer and tacos.
All right, then I was going to ask you this one. What's your favorite alcoholic beverage?
I'd say for myself wine, but I really have been enjoying craft breweries and just something different. But wine,
all right,
yeah.
All right, now this is going to be the most important question you've ever been asked. You ready for this one? All right, so if you're working for the CIA and you were in charge with the torture department and you had to get the questions out of like a terrorist or someone, what song would you use on loop to torture that person to get the secrets?
Oh my god!
This is important.
Baby Shark.
Oh
I have a 3-year-old.
They love that song.
Yeah, Baby
It's
Shark.
huge here in South Korea. I live in South Korea, but just.
Yes.
All right, so can you tell me very briefly, about you were recently featured on the NIL 604 Atheist channel.
Yeah.
Can you tell me very briefly about that conversation? Maybe in like 1 minute.
Sure. So briefly, he does deconversion stories. So I was on sharing my deconversion story of growing up. I'm 38, but I just in the last 6 months have deconverted from Christianity, and I consider myself an athist now. Not something I would ever.
Am I see myself an atheist? You're like all afraid to say it.
It's still kind of weird.
It's new.
It's also not weird in a bad way. Just if you knew me, you'd be like, everyone is still shocked. But it's actually pretty awesome. So I was sharing my deconversion story of just growing up in a very religious and religious home, and just getting married and continuing that just in my own home. Yeah.
But by the way, I did see that your mom had left a comment about being very proud about you. Was your mom like? I believe you mentioned it. Was your mom like going through something similar? Was she like?
Yeah. So I shared with my mom kind of back in December when I came to this realization I don't believe in God, and I tell my mom everything. She's my person. pretty much. And I was like, okay, well, I have to tell my mom, and I know my mom is going to love me no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't nervous or anything. I was like a little excited, but also like, oh, what's she gonna say? And when I told her, she told me, Stacie, I have been struggling with this my entire life, but I have not had anyone to talk to about this. And she and I are super close, and I would be someone that she would come to talk about something like this, but I was such a strong believer that it's not like she could really open up and tell me her struggles. So when I kind of told her, she yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were
that's okay.
We're having a little bit of delay here. So.
That's okay. So when I did tell her, she kind of was like, oh my gosh, okay. I have been struggling with this.
Wow.
My belief.
And I can't wait to ask you about that.
And, she wasn't as like, she didn't say, pardon? Yeah. Well,
I said gunko.
I think I let go of it really easily, like all my, like any fears, but she held on to those fears of like hell a lot longer. I mean, a lot longer it's only been 6 months, but I was able to kind of drop those faster. So we've just kind of walked through this together unintentionally.
Interesting.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So the same time you had this going on, sorry.
That's okay.
The same time that you had this going on, your mom also had it going on?
Yeah.
Okay. So
but not saying anything.
Okay. So then it's true then Stacie's mom has got it going on.
Yeah.
You probably heard that.
And if you saw my mom,
that was a joke. That was a joke.
On. No, that's actually been our theme song since it came out.
Oh, okay. I thought I was being somewhat original. Okay. That being said, I do want to ask you one thing real quick before we get into the meat and taters here. But if I saw you on the street, I would totally think you're American. Well, I guess technically you are American, but you're Canadian. Yeah, okay, North American. But Canada and America, I consider you guys like our smaller brother, because we seem to have like so much alike culturally. Like I talk to people from the UK and they'll make references or their accents, whatever. I have a hard time to understand them, but we get all of the same cultural references and everything. So have you spent any time in America?
Oh yeah, a lot of time. Where I lived for most of my life is right on the Canada-US border. I'm in British Columbia, and I grew up mostly in like the Vancouver area, which is only like a half an hour drive to like Blaine, Washington. And where I lived in Surrey is like a 10-minute drive, or depending on where Surrey, British Columbia. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So we had our nexus, which is you can just get across the border super quickly.
Oh, okay.
People just like you go and get your gas, you go and you get packages
in America.
Yeah, because it's cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because in America the prices are going up like really high, and I'm like, I'm like, that's just like on par for most of the places I've been to, like overseas in South Korea or in Europe. I'm like, that's just an average price. I mean, it's not. We had it really low for a really long time. In fact, about 20 years ago, when I got my first car, I lived in Oregon, pretty close to Canada. And I remember I used to fill up for $12. It was 99 cents a gallon. So, yeah, really.
That's really cheap.
What would you say the biggest differences between Canada and the U.S. are? Having seen both.
What would I say the Biggest difference? Well, there are like a lot of differences. I find that we know more about the US than the US knows about Canada. I think it's because we get like a lot of we get all of the TV channels, and
Right.
we know like a lot about what's going on in
Pop culture.
Yeah, pop culture, politics, everything. I don't.
So you know about Trump.
Oh yeah, of course we do. Well, the whole world does.
We're gonna get into that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think Canadians tend to know a lot more about the U.S. than Americans know about Canadians, for the most part. Like,
that's not really saying very much, by the way. We're Americans. Yeah. In fact, I want to start off with one joke, and then we'll get right into the questions. Sure. Okay. But you know what you call someone who speaks like 5 languages? A polyglot.
A polyglot?
Yeah. Do you know what you call someone who speaks 2 languages?
What?
Bilingual. Okay.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the joke. That was not the punchline. Just don't. All right. Okay, this is the punchline. There we go. All right. What do you call someone who speaks 1 language?
Someone who.
American.
Oh. There you go. Very good.
You were mentioning in your talk why they do 3 times as far as to like call you out on being like apostate or and so 3 is like three is a very magical number. Like you can't tell a joke. If you ever think about this, like whenever you hear jokes, it's not the first person who comes up who does something stupid. It's the first person who'll come up, and then it's never the second person, and it's never the 4th person. It's always the 3rd person. Like there's something very, very magical about that number. But okay, that being said, I do want to jump into these questions. If you're ready, you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Do you think it's easier to convert from fundamentalism or moderate faith?
So I was going over these earlier today with my mom, actually, in the kitchen.
Really?
Yes, we were. I was like, let's talk these out because I wanna know. So with moderate faith, so what we were talking about is, do you mean like someone who, what I kind of interpreted that with her is like someone who's kind of lukewarm, like a Christian, like a lukewarm Christian. So that's kind of what.
Lukewarm. I mean, okay.
Someone who's just kind of
maybe
like we go to church and like we just like we read our Bible, we go to church. Like, is that sort of what you meant? Just like someone?
Yeah, I would say that. I don't really consider nominal Christians though. That's the thing. So I wouldn't. But so maybe that's not the best thing. I would say just someone who's like not evangelical or like really gung-ho, like everyone else is just going to go to hell. Like if you have that kind of black and white thinking, I should have maybe specified this. It seems like it will be a little bit harder for that kind of person to deconvert.
For the
what do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of what I think too. What my mom and I were talking about is, I think someone with a moderate faith, it would be harder for them to deconvert.
It'd be harder for the moderate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so because how I kind of interpret that, or I take that as it doesn't seem like their life is really as invested as someone who, like for me, my life revolved around Christianity. And so I was pulling at those threads. I was wanting to know like why I believe what I believe. Where is like, what is this truth? What is truth? So I didn't want to just believe because like it's a cultural thing, or it's because this is what I was raised with. I wanted to know like, how did the Bible get constructed? How did it come to be? Like, I wanted to get to the bottom of it. And so, yeah, like I was like fundamentalist, but I think the people who are the most invested in their faith, from what I have learned, and I think it's true because it was true for me. I can't speak for everyone. They're the ones who tend to deconvert, the ones who are the most invested, because they want to know.
Oh, so they're seeking more.
Yeah.
Okay. So a follow-up question to that would be, okay, so you have that, and then do you think that there's additional pressure by people who are also on that extreme end? And so that's what might make it harder. Like, let's say, for example, if your parents were moderate and you deconverted, they would just kind of be like, oh, all right, well, go through your stage or whatever.
Yeah.
But if your parents are like, I mean, have you seen the video to that Telltale guy? He's ex JW.
Oh, I've seen his channel, but I haven't.
I mean,
yeah, you definitely risk a lot.
I mean, that guy was like, I can't even believe, like, I'm a part of religion that's people do these kind of things, because
that's kind of how
that guy, that guy, he was like 17 years old and his parents kicked him out. And then he was like living, he had to sneak into his friend's bedroom. And I mean, I just got to say, I know.
When I say I think it's easier, I mean, I don't think it's easier sometimes for people with their life and like the repercussions in their life. I think it's easier as far as like your train of thought, and for those switch to like click. But I don't necessarily think for some people's life that it's just like, oh yeah, okay, I can do this now and everything's going to be fine and people are going to be okay with it. Every situation is different. So do you know what I mean? Like, and I realize now that I posted that question, that is actually ambiguous, because you could interpret that. But anyway, that guy, I just can't believe it, because like, we're both parents. If my daughter was like in the process of physically killing me, my last words would be, I love you and you're the best that's ever happened to me, so I can't even understand someone's mindset who behaves like, it's so far from anything even relatively. I mean, my daughter could become a Satanist, and I literally don't think I could love my daughter, even if I tried to. I don't think so. So it's really hard for me to. And I will tell you this personally, like the last year of my mom's life, like we didn't talk for 6 months, because I got like this Eye of Ra like tattoo on my chest. Can you see that? I got all the world religions tattooed on me. I was not a believer for many years myself, but she was like leveraging. God, it's so hard to even think about this, because she was leveraging her relationship with me as to be like a Christian. And at the end of the day, it's like, I didn't believe in Christianity. You could have threatened me with a literal death, and it wouldn't have changed that, because I hadn't experienced that. So I'm not going to preach to you personally, or you or anyone else, but it's your story. It's your.
Well, I mean, what I want to say though is that I think people deconverting is like the best thing you could possibly do as far as pursuing God, because whenever you're in your faith, you're doing this for other people, you're talking about your husband or your mother or your pastor and everything. And so it's not a lot about you actually trying to find the truth. And I'm glad you try to find it. And I think though, because whenever you come back, if you come back, you'll have like a more legitimate and solid faith. Do you know who Josh McDowell is?
The name sounds familiar.
He's like the Michael Jordan of like apologetics, which is like defending the faith. I'm not into that, because I don't believe in like apologetics or debating people. I'm really personally opposed to that. But anyway, his son told him that like, hey dad, I'm like questioning my faith. And his dad is like, oh, that's great. And he was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, no, that's great. He's like, that's the only way. Like, you can't stand on my faith, you know? And my dad used to want me to stand on his faith. He used to tell me that. He's like, Isaiah, stand on my faith, stand on my belief. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like,
yeah, you can't do
like,
that.
I can't even process these kind of things, you know?
Yeah.
And especially for me, I had my mom telling me, you know, basically she wasn't going to talk to me unless I became a Christian. It's like, that just puts additional pressure on you. That's
totally.
So I do want to get onto the, by the way, you have 2 kids?
I have 3 boys.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do they put in the water down there? Because you're in better shape than me. All right. Actually, I just started a routine, so I've been exercising the last few days. Okay, number 2. What do you wish you could tell your 18-year-old self about faith?
I think I would tell myself that you don't have to hold it so tightly, and you don't. Oh, hi, Brian.
Do you know this guy?
Yes, I believe he follows me on Twitter. Yeah, I would tell my 18-year-old self that you don't have to hold it so tightly, because I put my faith on such a pedestal, and I thought that that's like what I had to do. I thought that was the right thing to do, and I thought it was infallible. And I also, I just thought it's a sin to question your faith. Basically, I didn't allow myself.
It's a sin?
Yeah, like it really did feel like, no, you can't question it. Which, I mean, that's kind of what cults.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Where did you get that from, though? Like, was that something that you just intuitively picked on, or did you hear like your family or anyone?
I think it was. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to like just be a really good Christian and to follow it like to the T, like to the letter. And yeah, I wanted to live it out and follow Jesus. And I didn't want to.
I used to tell my 18-year-old Stacie to be more like her brother. Is that your mom?
She did. That's my mom. You can see.
Oh, that's hilarious.
What's going on? I'm just gonna open my. There.
So that okay.
I don't want to ignore Brian's question that he asked.
No, I'll get to that. Don't worry about that. Yeah. I'm gonna address that.
Okay. But yeah, my mom did say that a lot.
That's pretty hilarious.
Because I was really hard on myself.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about one thing. Any chance you've ever heard of someone called like rappers called Syllable and Brains? He's from the UK. Oh, by the way, you actually can say about. That's amazing. You got to be the first Canadian who can say about. You just said it. That's amazing.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, just to throw this out there, please take Justin Bieber back. It's a memo just in, please.
Oh, okay.
Please, that's it. I'm begging. All right, but anyway, getting on to the serious interview here.
We'll take.
So, okay, so.
Do you hear my mom?
She's here.
She's in the kitchen. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. Right so good. So that is so weird because I've never heard it said that it was a sin to question. But I will say this though.
I don't know if it is, but I just
thought
it was.
Yeah. So when I was like in high school, I was in high school, and we had these missionaries come, and they were like, just a lot of stuff didn't make sense because if you are honest, a lot of stuff is really illogical, and on the surface level, just it might be true, but it doesn't seem like it could be true. Okay, a lot of stuff like Noah's Ark, creationism. There's a lot of stuff we could go down everything.
Oh,
but I was having these questions because some stuff just was not adding up, and so my dad had told that guy, and he like prayed for me, because I remember like you had something similar with your pastor. They're like, oh, okay, well, we'll pray for you, we'll give you this, and like that's not really the exact. That's not really a helpful response. One. I think I had to question, and to answer this guy's question, it really, this is one of the biggest problems right here. Because first of all, as you go to, I went to Bible college. I became an atheist at Bible college. But at Bible college, when you start to question, it's like seeing there's something wrong there, Like, how dare you question it? Kind of like, how dare you? Like, who are you to question God's word? And you're like,
exactly.
I remember I was sitting there, I'm like, wait a minute. They dictated genocide. Yeah, but what you got to understand is that, and you're like, what am I reading here? Yeah. So I think it's good to question. There was a guy any chance you know of a band called Hawk Nelson?
Oh yeah.
So that guy, you probably know that guy became an atheist.
Well.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that he was talked about, is that he didn't, like, there was no freedom to say, hey, I like to have a beer or whatever. I like to smoke a cigar, or I might like to watch some, you know what I mean, some other kind of movies or whatever. Like that, just you have to hide all this stuff, and it's not really, not very helpful. I'm good.
Oh, I was gonna say, actually, I remember when he came out as an atheist, and I was shocked because I actually saw him in concert.
Really?
And, he opened up for Mercy Me when I saw them in concert, and so I was very shocked.
They're great.
Yeah, I liked them, and so then this past December, for some reason he came back to mind, John Steingard. And I thought, I wonder if he's on YouTube. I wonder if he's done.
Yeah, he is.
So I actually looked him up, and I found his story where he's talking to his friend over like they just had like a pint of beer.
Yeah, that's good.
I watched his whole kind of conversation about how he came to this, and that was when I was really like, I don't think I'm a Christian anymore, but like I was it was a very scary feeling, but it was also very exciting at the same time. And after watching that, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, everything he's saying is making sense. And it really made me think. And I was like, because in my head, I just thought, does someone just wake up and say, oh, okay, I'm done, I'm not a Christian anymore? And so much of his story was a lot like my upbringing.
No, I know that.
A lot of it, right? And so
I totally get that.
Yeah. And so I listened to it, and I just was like, oh my gosh, I don't think that I'm a Christian anymore. I don't think I believe. And I think I'm okay to say that. So yeah, that I was after watching that gave me the courage to just say, yeah. Well,
that was one of the things that really struck me, was that how he was talking about and being on that pedestal. There were things that, like, I think if you ask the average person, like, regardless what the Bible says, like, do you personally think that, like, homosexuality is wrong? Okay. Most Christians, they might say, well, the Bible says this, but if you're just analyze that logically, it doesn't really seem like, it's not anything like the equivalent of like pedophilia or rape or murder or theft. You know what I mean? Like, there's no equivalent there. It's like, one person is attracted to the other person, and they're not attracted to their opposite sex. Like, what do you expect someone like that to do? Would it be better for that person to enter into like a marriage and put their wife through that kind of garbage? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so, but anyway, but that's something that you might actually feel that, but actually coming out and expressing that is like, especially in that community, you can't really do that, Like, I remember there was one, and I don't remember the name of the group, but they came out and just said something like, we believe in evolution. And they got like totally eviscerated for it. But, I would consider myself like somewhat between being a fundamentalist and a moderate. because
Okay.
like I am a social like libertarian because I believe so. I'm like pro gay marriage or pro choice or whatever.
Okay.
Even though I'm not personally like in favor of that, it's like I believe people have freedom and God gave us free will.
Right.
So I'm not for like for shoving it down people's throats or like abstinence only. That's not really very helpful.
No.
But on the other hand, I have no problem. This podcast, I am so open about the things that don't make sense in the Bible, So
Good.
that's I'm
There's
not
a
afraid
lot.
of that. I'm not afraid of that. Yeah, there is, and I'm not afraid to confront that and say this might be true, but the way that we perceive it might just be totally off base. And I'll just give you a quick example. If you were to take some ants and like show them a skyscraper, they might say that's a really stupid design because if you build up high, predators can come knock it down, and you can't bite on the still, or this still is not biodegradable, whatever. They might use some kind of reasoning that would make absolutely no sense to us. So
Right.
I kind of have that perspective. Like a lot of stuff doesn't make sense and does seem illogical, like the Trinity, but it doesn't mean that it's not true. Or maybe it's true in a way that I just would never be able to understand in my mind. But
Right.
but really quick though, I was mentioning that syllable and brains because this guy, like, it's a crazy. We interviewed him on the podcast, but it's this crazy story where he was from Scotland and he wound up like he tried to be a rapper in the UK, but they didn't like his accent and everything. So he wound up like faking like he's from California and that he knew Eminem, and they wind up fooling like the total. I mean, it is the craziest story I've ever heard in my life, hands down, the craziest story. But the thing is, though, when I asked him, "What would you tell your 18-year-old self?" He totally blew me away because I was thinking he would tell him not to do what he actually did because they found out about him eventually. They have all these documentaries about him, but and he got involved with drugs and alcoholism. But he's like, I wouldn't tell myself anything. He goes, because I wouldn't want to rob myself like the journey I needed to go down. Like he's like, that's what I needed to experience. Is that good?
That's a good answer too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of makes you the person you are. So yeah.
He talked about the butterfly effect and how he like, I could be dead right now. If I change something, I could actually be dead. So I could actually like my life right now. So when I see Christians who are being like abusive to atheists or, people of other religions, I'm like, I couldn't be any further from that because like, I totally believe that wherever people are on the journey, whether it's another religion or another orientation or gender, like we need to try to meet the people and love the people. And I genuinely believe that that's what Christ would be doing. He were alive right now. But I do want to go into question 3.
Okay.
Do you think that extreme forms of faith can be a sign of mental illness?
I don't think they can be a sign of mental illness, but I think they can definitely bring on mental illness.
Bring it on. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like OCD, anxiety, depression.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, or at least if you have it, they could exacerbate it.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And I can speak from experience on that. Just with anxiety, since I have like left religion, anxiety for me has pretty much like gone. I dealt with anxiety my entire life since I was a small child, and I think I owe that to religious trauma, hell, the rapture. Yeah. So kind of letting go of those belief systems have definitely...
It's liberating.
Oh, yes, very much so. Yeah, so I don't think that it's a sign of being mentally ill, but it can definitely
That's interesting.
Exacerbate the problem. Yeah, and I think people mean well, in religion.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, though.
Well, that's true too. But I don't believe in hell, so
that's a metaphor.
Yeah. No, I know.
Actually, hell exists right now on the earth. You know what I mean? Like Ukraine would be a hellhole. I mean, people are literally North Korea. I've been to North Korea and I've seen it firsthand. That was a really big step in me to question my atheism. But I interviewed some refugees from there as part of my missions here in South Korea.
Right.
And I asked him about, like, he escaped from North Korea, and he says North Korea is not even a country. He says North Korea is hell. It is hell on earth. Yeah. And but hells exist inside of our minds, and just in reality is that this is one reason I think Christianity has really, really failed on multiple different levels, is to just pushes and all this stuff down and relegates it to some deep, dark corners of your lives, and it gets out of control. I know for me, it personally happened for me. Maybe I might be projecting some of that onto other people, because maybe not everyone has my experience that I've had being traumatized inside of the church, things like my mom, you mentioned the rapture, but I remember when I was probably 10 years old, my mom got it into her mind that California, because of the San Andreas fault, it was going to go off into the ocean. Oh. And because
where I grew up, it was, the same thing.
In California?
No. In the Vancouver area, it was we're all preparing for the big one.
The big, like Oregon and Washington, they don't like California. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah, so I went to school in Oregon and I found that out, but they actually, this is so messed up, but they have this map and it has Washington, Oregon, and California is completely gone. And it says, it's the lottery, and it says luck happens. That's messed up, right? Oh, but anyway, a lot of states have people from Texas think they're better than everyone else. But anyway, so I remember that scared the living shit out of me growing up. And she was like, this is going to happen next week or something. You know what I mean? And it's okay, this might happen in 200,000 years or something. Yeah. When I found that out as an adult, I was like, oh my God. Or she was telling us that Ebola was going to kill everyone on the planet because it was so efficient at killing people.
I think your mom and my grandma are friends.
But yeah, so there was a lot of stuff like that. And I don't know, we became atheists at totally different stages of our lives, because I was 19 years old. So what does every 19-year-old dude want to do? You know what I mean? That's probably 90% of the reason why I was an atheist. Is it just women and drinking and anything else I could do? It was I had a very one or two-dimensional mind. So it wasn't a very rational thing. It was you grow up and you can't see these movies or music and stuff. And I don't know, my mom might as well have just driven me down to the pub and be put this guy's drinks on my tab, because that's pretty much what she did. I mean, you know what I mean? So, all right. So moving along. Oh, I do want to say one thing. Yeah, I do think that there are people who have maybe chemical imbalances or whatever, that could really benefit from either medication or. After I became a Christian, my family actually made me get counseling, because they thought I was going through a mental breakdown, because Jesus actually spoke to me in my room. So they're like, you're going into counseling tomorrow. So I went to counseling for a year. And without that counseling, I couldn't have reunited with my wife. We were divorced for 5 years. So, yeah, I really am strongly for mental health and self-care, exercise and stuff, Mm-hmm. But see, here's an interesting one. What would your advice to parents of deconverting kids be? It's a weirdly phrased question. What would your advice be Yeah, like what was I
I
thinking?
think you forgot a word.
Yeah, I did.
I think that's it. It's okay.
Okay.
That's one
You
word.
get the gist.
Yeah, I do. So what would my advice be to parents of kids who are constructing or
Deconverting or deconstructing?
Yeah.
Deconstructing is healthy.
So my advice would be this, to any parent with a child going through any sort of big change in life or what they're going to tell them about anything that they're going through is to love them and to listen to them and to be there for them. Same as if your child was coming to you and saying they were homosexual or anything that they were going through. You're their parent. You're who they have that should love them unconditionally. Like you said, your daughter, even if she was hurting you, like you would be like
killing me. I said killing me. Killing me. Speak of the devil. Speak of the devil.
Oh, she's so sweet.
What do you like? Let's see. I'll go here. Like me with hair, right? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Throw a little goatee on my daughter, shave off her hair, and you got me.
She's really cute.
Oh yeah, she's the best.
Yeah.
She's half queen.
Yeah, so I would just have the same advice with anything. Just listen to them, and you might learn something. And don't cut them out of your life. Don't shut them down. Don't shut down their ideas. There were times where, like, I feel like in a way, like my husband would kind of bring up topics about the Bible before, and I would be like, "No, you can't say that." No,
you shut it down? Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I would be like, because I was like, no, you can't. And so I had made that mistake, and he was super patient with me. And yeah, and so now I've told him, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I shouldn't have done that. Not that he was trying to change my mind in any way. He was just kind of like, hey, how come it says this? Or how come, like, I'm wondering why there's these inconsistencies or why God did this. Anyways, so I kind of was that parent in a way, even though I'm not his parent, but you know what I mean? Like I was in that position, and I did sort of shut the conversation down, and that wasn't the right way of going about any kind of healthy dialogue. So just listen and be there for them. And, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I like what you just said right now. It's really rich. Maybe my daughter's not at the stage where she's able to teach me a lot, other than just learning a different side of myself that I never even knew could exist. Yeah. But talking about learning from your kids, I think that's a really good thing. My dad's a minister, and we didn't talk for like many years. Okay. But after I became a Christian, we started talking about our faith and stuff. And he actually told me he was learning from me, because people get into that mind like I'm so intelligent, or I should be this much smarter than my kids. But really, we can learn from anyone. I mean, some lessons I learned were down in Haiti after the earthquake, like with orphans down there. They taught me lessons about life. A bread lady who I befriended on the side of the road taught me an invaluable lesson and in life. And so we can learn from everyone, like that's what this podcast. That's why if you take a look at the R's, they're like reversed. They're inverted on top of each other. Yeah. Trying to see like each other's views. And so I do want to I'm going to play a quick video.
Sure.
And I want to get your feedback on this, because I think this played a really big part of your story. And I made this video about a year ago, but I think it's relevant right now. Okay. So here we go. Let's be honest. No one likes wearing these masks. Many, in fact, at churches were complaining about having to wear a mask. But ironically, as believers, we should have been the first to say that we're willing to inconvenience ourselves for the safety of others. Ironically, too, at church, many people walk in wearing masks week to week, month to month. Imagine if we walked into church backwards, or walking around on our hands and knees. We would instantly know that something is wrong.
But this is what we do when we spend 2 hours a week pretending to be somebody that is totally different. James said to confess our sins to one another. John said that if we say that we have no sin in our lives, then we are, in fact, liars. Paul said that I am strongest when I am the weakest, and Jesus said that it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but it is the weak. He reached the drunkard, he reached the prostitute, and he saved the thief on the cross. In honesty, there is healing. Confess your sins to one another with discretion.
Okay, I don't want to preach too much on there, but I believe that COVID was the worst way Christians have dropped the ball on anything. Couple of things too, because it wanted to play a role in yours, but one was with the anti-vax. But it was the most vocal people who were saying we're not going to wear these masks was the Christians.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. That blew my mind to a million pieces. It's like we should not be thinking about ourselves. We should be thinking about other people. Yeah. So I live in South Korea where masks, like way before this, were just like a part of life because you wear a mask actually when you get sick. It's not to not get sick, it's so that you don't get other people sick.
Right.
So Christians dropped the ball with that. And then just the anti-vax just totally destroys our credibility. So can you tell me a little bit about your story to the vaccine? Because I think that was very interesting.
Okay, so I will be completely honest. At the beginning of COVID, I was very skeptical about it. I was I was unsure how this was playing out. I was nervous. I was scared because it was brand new and everything was changing so quickly. So with the whole mask, I was a very vocal, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to wear a mask. Okay. So I'll just be very honest about that from the get-go. My feelings and thoughts changed and evolved. So that was early on.
Sure.
And like I said, it was all brand new. It was changing quickly. So as the second half of last year, so 2021, was going about and the vaccine did roll out, I did get vaccinated and I am fully vaxxed and I'm totally fine with it. I've never been an anti-vax person, but I was getting a lot of propaganda from my Christian friends about the vaccine and it being like the mark of the beast and it being all kinds of really crazy things. And I still I'm
just gonna cover my face.
Okay.
Keep going. Just talk. Just talk. I'm ashamed to be a Christian right now.
It's okay. I still see a lot of posts on occasion, even just yesterday, about the vaccine still being used. And I'm like, really? People are still believing this kind of stuff? Like, all right, if you do believe it. Anyways, so once I started seeing how quickly Delta was affecting people and people were getting really sick and a lot of people were dying. It wasn't just you weren't just starting to hear oh, so-and-so of so-and-so of so-and-so I know got COVID. It was oh my gosh, I'm actually starting to know people.
Yeah.
People are actually
people.
Yeah, it was getting to be closer and closer and closer and it was getting serious. Anyways, there was somebody at the church that we attended that ended up in the ICU and extremely sick. He was the same age as my husband and it was very serious. And we had already moved away from the church at this time and out of the city. So we were just getting updates, but it was really affecting my husband and I because we could still sense the divide even on this topic. And it was then where I was I don't understand why people are still why are Christians still it's like they were digging their heels in even harder. And I kept having these conversations with my husband, and I was like, because he was very knowledgeable on the science side, and he was just like, Stacie, this is ridiculous. Like, he's very smart. Like, he's not a doctor or anything, but he knows quite a bit about all of this. And so I was like, Brian, I'm starting to feel like if they can't see the black and white evidence of COVID, the vaccine, what are they choosing not to see?
Wow.
Of the truth, like in the Bible. Like,
wow.
So that was sort of kind of where it was kind of my like wake up ish. And by that time, like, I was fine with wearing a mask. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I don't actually want to go in places without wearing one. It was starting to really, like, it was spreading a lot, and I had a complete change of heart. By that time, I had made it public that I was vaccinated because people were messaging me, seeing me in restaurants on social media,
God.
and asking me, how did you get into it? Was all Christians. How did you get into a restaurant? What's your loophole? Because we had to show proof of vaccination to get in restaurants. Sorry, yeah.
In Canada or in America?
In Canada. Like,
I need you to stop right now because you're about to deconvert me. Okay. My goal was to convert. Hey, this is unrelated, but like, what? You look like a celebrity, but I cannot put my finger on it right now. Who do you get?
There's probably two. I got Katie Holmes when I was a teenager.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
That was a long time ago.
That's not the one I was thinking about, though.
Okay, no, that was when I was a teenager. Recently, I don't know. I honestly don't know. If you know, put it in the chat.
Yeah. No, you know who I'm thinking about? Did you ever see Prison Break? Sarah Tancredi.
Oh, the one who would like kind of help get him out of prison?
Yeah. The nurse. Yeah.
I've seen that. She's pretty.
Anyway.
Thank you. I used to love that show. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. So, okay. So that is, I'm so embarrassed right now.
Yeah, so that was sort of like, I feel like, you know, I had doubts, and I like there is a little more to that, but that was sort of like the tipping point where I was just like, what are these people not seeing? Why is it all this, like, it's all Christians?
I know. It's so bad.
I was like, I would talk to my husband in the evenings, and I would literally like take stock, and I'm like, Brian, I would go like a list of people, and I'm like, okay, the commonality is they're all hardcore Christians. Like, like what is going on? So,
and it's so like, that's funny. You analyze this from a completely different standpoint, but then I was analyzing it from. But one, you have science denial. You have trying to deny very basic things like the Earth is not 6,000 years old. Okay, the Earth is not 6,000 years old. This universe is billions of years old. Okay, like, don't deny these things because it makes you look stupid. Okay, it makes you look stupid. You're denying the anti-vax or the vaccine. I'll tell you this, my experience, and this is not to diminish the loss of people who've died, because I think like in December, a good friend of mine, her husband died, but he was one of those like never vaxxer, never maskers guys. Yeah. And he got it and he died. But my experience, because as soon as the vax became available to me, I went and got it. One time, the second time, felt like I got hit like a sledgehammer on my arm. Yeah, like literally, like, yeah. It was really bad pain. But when I did get COVID, I actually want to get COVID again, man. That was like the best week of my life, because my wife went to Seoul with her family, her daughter. So I'm here.
Just chilled.
I'm chilling, Netflixing. Like people, my church and my work.
Lucky. I got COVID and I still had to look after kids.
Oh God!
no
Oh
chilling.
God! Oh man, I feel bad for you. When did you get it, by the way?
January. We all kind of got it January. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, the experience that I've had and how many people I've known who have died is just ridiculous when I think about my experience, because literally I was chilling out for a week. My school and my work sent me all kinds of snacks and stuff. So I mean, I'm just like lounge. I did get a little, after like 5 days, I'm kind of like, God, when's this junk gonna end? But I mean, it's better that than like having 2,000 things to do, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do want to go on to the next question, but that is really embarrassing that just Christians so it's so dropped the ball on this. And I try to tell people too, like with supporting like Donald Trump as Christians, like this has real world consequences. You're supporting someone who couldn't possibly be any further from the things that Jesus was actually teaching. So when you're presenting this guy as actually being a Christian and actually being like a savior of Christian, you lose so much credibility with the people who are not believers, you know? And so
do you find I said to my husband today, I feel like the new Trump, maybe this is off the wall, but the new one that people are starting to idolize is Elon Musk. I feel like he's kind of taken his place in a way.
I don't know, but at least if that were the case, that guy is actually successful. You know, Elon Musk is self-made, and Donald Trump just was born and inherited all that stuff. So I don't really have any respect for his story or the dishonesty in which he's carried out his business. But Elon Musk, I'm like, I mean, that guy's. I don't want to touch the hem of Elon Musk's garment, like just touch it. Sorry, that's a bad joke. Okay, that guy's amazing though. Okay, here we go. You maybe might not be able to answer this question because you're new to the community, but I do want to ask you this. Do you believe that the non-faith can be just as dogmatic and intolerant as believers?
I think any stance on anything can be dogmatic. I'm new to the community. I find it's been a very welcoming community, and if you believe them. If you believe them?
If you believe like them, I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah, but I mean that's like with any community if you think like them. But there's no creed you have to follow. There's no Bible. There's no set out like 10 commandments that you have to there's nothing that you have to follow. But as far as, I don't know, again, my mom and I are talking about all this. We were saying well, you can be dogmatic if you're a vegan. You can be dogmatic if you're, even vegans and vegetarians can be dogmatic about certain things, right? So yeah, you can be dogmatic about any belief, but I am new, but I find that they have been very welcoming. And as soon as you stop believing or claim to not be a believer in Christianity, I mean,
you ostracize.
You're done. You're
yeah. Well,
bye.
One day, maybe not now, maybe in a year or two, you could just do an interesting exercise and start coming out with some views and start saying you're pro-life or whatever, and that you hold on
or pro-choice.
Pro-life.
Oh,
say that you're pro-life on there, and
see
then,
what they say.
Yeah, tell them that you're not for gay marriage, just to gauge them, and then come out and say, "Hey, I've had a religious experience," and then see how they treat you there. Because the way, but I do want to ask this, because I would think, and I might be wrong on this, I would think that they would be more welcoming than Christians, because in Christianity, everyone's kind of like the video that I made about the mask and about how people wear masks to church.
Yeah.
The reality is, though, is that and this is why whenever you talked about being like a perfect Christian, I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, that's like an oxymoron. Like, you can't be a perfect Christian.
I know that there's no such thing, but I wanted to.
It didn't even make sense to me. So it's like you're trying to accomplish something that you can't accomplish. So there's no like, being a Christian is being really, really, really imperfect. But what happens inside is that people come to church and like, oh, I'm better than you because I don't do what you do, but I do this other stuff. But let's not talk about what I do whenever I'm alone or whenever I'm online. So, but I would think that you wouldn't have the same kind of pressure to like live up to, I don't know, you call it a book or whatever, but you don't have the same pressure like, hey, I'm this X, Y, and Z. It's like, hey, we can just be ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Would I agree with just being yourself, or
no, that you could be yourself more? Like, you don't have to fake something, was what I'm trying to say.
Like right now, or
no, with atheists, like you don't have to fake.
Yeah.
Like if I'm a Christian, there's a lot of stuff and I go to church. I don't want everybody to. They probably would kick me out if they knew everything about me. So it's like I don't want to. I don't have to.
Thinking if you went to the church that we just came out of, they would be like, oh no, you can't say like you can't be for gay marriage, and like they would not be super happy about that, and
they wouldn't be happy.
No, they would.
So
yeah, you if you are for it, you would have to just keep that to yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So putting on a mask. Yeah. So I feel like I can be myself more.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. You really should not do what I told you to do like right now, because you don't want to burn any bridges right now. But just to genuinely see how intolerant they could be, like in the future, do that just as like an exercise, and maybe just to shine a light onto that. Say don't do it within the next 1 or 2 years, because it should be something that, because you're in a really early stage right now. You're not even a year in, so there's not a whole lot that I think you would.
I'm still feeling the freedom of feeling things out and being like, how do I really feel? And looking at topics, really heavy topics, and seeing like, okay, now I have the flexibility of looking at it from different points of view, and maybe just seeing if my mind if my mind has changed on certain things. So
for sure.
Yeah. Whereas before I just felt like everything was so black and white. And my thought process was always very black and white. And now I'm like, okay, no, there's actually like thinking doesn't have to be so binary.
Yeah. I think the dogma is the most dangerous thing on both sides, from Christians and because to not leave any kind of doubt that you could possibly be wrong, it's going to make you really obnoxious. One, and then it's just dangerous, because then you can justify all kinds of stuff that you really shouldn't be doing, So I'm really nervous about, like, I'm more scared of most like extreme evangelicals than I am like most unbelievers. Like, those people causing me like more sleepless nights. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of the atheist community at all, but those people like scare me. They scare me a lot. I mean, they really. I'm not saying that hypothetically or like they really scare me. So
who's that? Oh, is that from Prison Break?
Yeah, Prison Break.
Oh, okay. I was
just
like,
wanted to throw that out there.
Is she giving you like death threats or something?
Just wanted to throw that out there. All right, I think I have one more question.
Okay.
You having a good time, Bird?
Yes.
Was this? What was this? Is it? Were you nervous about having a conversation with a Christian?
No.
No.
No, I actually had a conversation with someone from our former church on Saturday, and it was fine. Like I'm still me. Like I haven't had a personality transplant. I know you don't know me, like, but I'm still myself. I don't believe what I used to believe as far as religion goes, but I'm still the same person. Yeah, my life hasn't changed in a major way. I'm still a mom. We're still raising our kids to be good, kind people, and just because we're not Christians anymore doesn't mean we're like, hey, go hate everyone. And
Empathy. I think empathy is a really big part of this podcast, but I think that's the number one thing people should be treating their kids with, because people don't do as good of a job as expressing this inside of Christianity, but empathy is actually like it's more powerful than love, because you can hurt people like you love, but when you take empathy and you literally take what Jesus said about loving your neighbor as yourself, and then you say, I should be thinking that I'm disembodied and I'm in myself is in this other person. And how would I objectively treat me as another person?
Yeah.
So when you can process that, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he has a quote in his book that I think it's the best quote ever, but it says, like, all of human problems stem from a basic like disassociation that people have between not seeing other people with the same value that they see themselves. Like, you could trace everything back to that in abusive relationships or in government. People reserve themselves on a totally different plane of existence. And he even talks about something. He says people care more about a boil on their neck than they do in a famine in Africa. So if you take that into how we put ourselves in the most important part of our universe, which we should be, but you take that and say, I need to apply this to other people, whether they're gay, whether they're trans, whether they're Muslim, or whatever, atheist. No, we treat atheists badly. No, I'm just kidding. That's a total joke. I love atheists. So the last question I have, and actually I do want you to tie this into, tell me a little bit about your TikTok, and about how that's been, if that's just like a coping mechanism. But what would your advice be to someone who's deconstructing their faith?
What would my advice be?
And you can tell me about what you're doing on TikTok.
Oh, okay. Well, it would be, okay, so the Christian community paints deconstruction as right now like the worst thing that you could do. And that's how I viewed it. I was like, oh no, don't deconstruct. And I would say, don't listen to it. I mean, not everyone deconverts. That's the thing. Like, I think you should know what you believe and why. See, I started deconstructing without really realizing it 3 years ago. And there were things that I had always believed, and I wanted to know why I believed them. So it's kind of just looking at certain things and being like, well, why do I believe that? Where did that come from? And I've been like the rapture. That was actually a belief that I stopped believing in 2 years ago, but I was still a very devout Christian. And I was like, that doesn't actually seem to make sense. That didn't come into like Christianity until I think it was in like only in the last few hundred years was that something that became part of like Christianity. And it was, you can dig into it yourself, but it's not something that has been in church history for a very long time. And to me, I thought, well, if it hasn't been in for that long, like where did that come from? Was that someone's just idea that they came up with? So that's deconstructing right there. It didn't make me abandon my faith just by learning that bit of truth. So in a way, like, it doesn't mean that it's deconstructing isn't going to lead you to atheism, but maybe it will. So, yeah. And there's a lot of Christians on Instagram who are deconstruction accounts who are still Christians. And right. So it doesn't mean that you're going to completely be an apostate like me. Sorry, the sun is going down over here. So
that's okay.
The lighting is changing. It's getting dark, but
we'll be wrapping in about 5 minutes.
No. I'm not like in a hurry or anything. So I want you to know why it's like getting darker. It's like there's a big black cloud, and
you don't have 50. You don't have 50 lights set up.
No, I need to get some lights. It's usually really bright right now, but it's been really bad weather. So,
yeah, it might be good to get one of those rings if you plan on doing more things with TikTok, which is you can mention.
Okay, so yeah, with TikTok, that was sort of like, okay, so I answered one question. I've never really done TikTok. My very first video on my account is, it's called a stitch, I guess, where you can stitch it to someone's video. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Someone asked a question, and so I answered it, and then I was like, okay, well, that's it. And then like that afternoon, I had like a lot of views and likes, and then people were replying, and I was like,
well,
oh wow, there's a lot of like interaction on this. Okay, well, that's kind of cool. And then my next one was a Hamilton song that I really like. And it was around the time, do you know Hamilton? Like the musical?
That play? Was that play?
It's okay. Yeah. My mom's trying to fix the lighting for me.
Yeah. Tell her thank you, Mom.
He says thank you, Mom.
She raised a good daughter.
She's so cute.
Did she see the picture?
Oh, the picture?
Did she see the picture?
I know.
What do you think?
I think she did.
Yes or no? No?
She'll probably say yeah. She watched it too.
Okay.
Anyways, so the second one I did was just
gorgeous.
Yes. Oh, yes, gorgeous. Yes.
You or her? Which one? She's talking about you or?
Probably me. I'm the daughter.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
My cousin actually dated that girl, by the way.
Who did?
My cousin actually dated that girl. I don't know what her name is, but Sarah Tancredi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, briefly. Not very long, obviously. She had standards, so.
Yeah, so then when I made the account, which was only like 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're a newbie.
I'm a newbie. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm an old TikTok mom. When I made it, it was kind of like, I was really ticked off. I'm still a little like annoyed, but I was really ticked off because the church that we have left are calling us out like every week pretty much publicly to the congregation, and it's being live streamed to YouTube. And
wow, those guys, I'm sorry, those guys are assholes. That's so not like, you don't need to do that.
So, in a way, it's kind of my just like I just need to like get it kind of off my chest without naming anyone or the name of the church. Like, I'm not going to do that, but it's kind of cathartic in a way. And the song that I did from Hamilton was "You'll Be Back." You know, the king, and he's like, "You'll be back soon, you'll see." And so the little text I put was like, when your church calls you out from the pulpit to repent and come back. And I was just like, no, we're not coming back. And and so I've just kind of shared like little tidbits, and I shared one about a video that my grandmother shared with me at 5 years old of a video of Satan and hell that traumatized me, and just a little story of that. And yeah, I don't have a lot of content on there, but if something kind of like comes to mind. Yeah.
I got some really great resources I can share with you as far as video making and some like
Yeah.
get bigger and stuff.
I feel kind of
I'll send it
silly
to you.
because I have like my 2 boys are in school and then I have a 3-year-old and I'll just be like, "Ooh, I have an idea," and I'll just like prop my phone up and do my little like TikTok, and I'll be like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, I mean, look at this. I do want to show you something. This was me this was me in Israel.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was really into Islam. This is actually like 4 months before I became a Christian.
Oh wow.
Maybe 5 months. So yeah, I was there smoking weed, drinking, getting some. Actually, if you look that up sometime, it means Juche. It's a North Korean atheistic philosophy. So I was as atheist, as pagan as you could get, and so I did wind up finding God after that. But I think what you're talking about, what they're doing, or just abusing or doxing, whatever the kind of stuff Christians do, arguing. There's some really, really abusive stuff, there. And from what I found is that a lot of times atheists or non-believers, they understand and they live out Christian values a lot better than Christians do a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that's not to placate you. That's not to placate any atheists, because I'm really personally strongly against atheism myself. But I have seen this, that Christians do not live up to a lot of stuff that Jesus said to do. Mm-hmm. And it's like they just read in whatever they want to read into the Bible. Like literally yesterday, I was watching an interview. This lady goes to this KKK member's house, and she's like Mexican. And this guy's dropping all kinds of profanity on her. But everything he believed, he was quoting it from the Bible. It's like, and he just taking stuff. I mean, literally saying stuff like Jesus was white and Yahweh doesn't want people to interact or interbreed. And I'm like, what freaking book are you reading here, dude? Like, you're so far on another dimension. It's like if I said like Jesus was Korean or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
You ever see 21 Jump Street where they had Korean Jesus?
No.
That's pretty funny. But yeah, you could read into that kind of stuff, and that's really dangerous. So I would like to see Christians respecting people where they are, loving people all along the way, because like, I'll tell you one thing, the rate of God or progress is not like this. It's like this, like it's a scribbly. So it's like we go up, we go back. I mean, we learn, we lose, and we're fallible human beings. You know what I mean? We're on our best days, we know like 0.5% of what there is to know in the universe. So there's this 99.5% that we have no idea about, that we're never going to be able to know about. And so, like, just have some humility, show some humility, show some respect and empathy. I mean, that's a trifecta for us: respect, humility, and empathy. So, do you have any last thoughts?
I just wanted to make sure that I could answer that question from Brian. I don't know if we did touch on it at all.
I had touched it.
Did we?
But because I was saying that. Yeah, I mean, I'll answer it really quickly, and you can answer it. But you had mentioned that like it wasn't good or whatever. But it's like I think it's the best thing you could do to deconstruct and to ask questions, because that's being honest. If we're going to be honest, that's a Christian value. And so I can say, maybe this stuff makes total sense, but it doesn't make sense to me in the limited knowledge that I have right now. Yeah. And maybe if I had more knowledge, maybe if I could see a bigger picture, maybe I would understand it better. But I don't understand it right now. But do you have any?
Well, I think, I think he's asking, like, do they allow you to ask questions? I know that, like, at the church that we were at, I could ask the pastor a lot of questions. But it was always, I felt like there was always like a really neat and tidy answer for everything. When I did, so I'll just answer for myself. When I was telling the pastor that I was having a lot of doubts, he did try to be helpful, like, I have resources for you, and I have like this that you can read. And that's what I said. I said, but are they going to be Christian resources? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, well, I don't want Christian resources because that'll just confirm like a bias. And I don't want that. Not that I was like, okay, I want to have my mind completely changed, but I just wanted to see something outside the scope of what I've been conditioned to believe my whole life, right? And so when he did ask me, well, who have you been reading? And I said, well, I've read some Bart Ehrman. He's like, oh, I was afraid you were going to say that. So like, right away, when I did tell him, like, you know, I've been looking at this person or this author, he was like, he wasn't encouraging that. So he had his own documentaries, his own books, but they were all Christian. And he also told me, actually, here's an answer for you, Brian. He said, we encourage questions as long as those questions do not lead you to abandoning your faith.
Oh, God.
Those were his words. So I would say not really. Yeah. Not really.
I mean, I think what it does is it conditions people to be sheep. So you should question and really study I mean, I'll tell you some of the books I've read 40, 50, 60, 70 times. I've ruined probably like 10 Bibles or so just with countless, endless notes. And I've also made like a series online where it like it explains the books of the Bible, but like in really simple ways that most people, because you can't really understand, like, let's say like for James, when it's talking about like the tongue being like fire. Well, that's useful, but maybe a more powerful one would be talking about like something modern, like nuclear energy, where you could level a whole city, or with your tongue, you can inspire people and build up a, you know, so I did some things like that, but it took a lot of like probably hundreds of hours of research. And doing this podcast, I've talked to probably about 40 atheists and maybe about 20 different worldviews total. Okay. And so that picture actually went and stayed at a mosque for like a week in Palestine. And I also went to stay inside of a Buddhist temple here in South Korea and learn about Buddhism. So they said I'd make a great monk, if you can tell.
See, I would never have done that. Like, my brother lives in Thailand right now.
Really?
Yeah, and
What part?
Bangkok. And
wow. I
was like, oh, I don't really want to go because of all the temples and everything.
To Buddhism?
Yeah, and now I'm like, oh yeah, well, let's go. Like,
I've seen some amazing things as far as the temples and like the Sikh temples, and I've got to travel to dozens of countries, and I mean I was not a believer for 10 years, so I think it is the healthiest thing, because where I am in my stage of my life, like I would never want to project what I've learned onto my daughter. You know, I want her to go out there and explore, and because otherwise she's going to be living off of my faith. Yeah. So if I really want my daughter to know Jesus and Christ, the God that I found, I'm like, you really should go. I mean, I will pay for her to go to Buddhist temples, and because I've learned from Buddhists, I've learned from Hindus, from this podcast. Wow. I have learned so much from atheists. It's unbelievable. Pretty much every podcast, I've learned something like different. So I definitely think that it's healthy. It's not. Yeah. I don't shy away from it, and I don't shy away from questioning.
That's awesome.
The things that I think are illogical, you know, or immoral, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any shame in that. But that being said, I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you had a good time. I hope it was enlightening. And your link to your TikTok, give her a like, and give her a follow. Too.
I hope you.
Oh, okay, I got to put your Twitter. Okay. What is your Twitter handle?
It's my name.
Ex-Fundamentalist. Okay, I'll put that in. I'll put that in.
Yeah.
I think did I find you on Twitter?
No, you found me on Discord, the after show for Truth Matters.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right, great.
Might as well plug that.
Truth Matters. Truth Wanted. Is it Truth Wanted?
Oh, sorry, Truth Wanted.
No, we're not promoting that garbage on this channel. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, Objectively Dan is coming on to the You know Objectively Dan?
Yeah, I've seen him there.
Yeah, so he's coming on next week. He's just moving, so we couldn't arrange it. But I've gotten to talk to a lot of, probably like 15 atheist podcasters, so it's been an interesting experience. Well, and actually, I talked to that Steingard.
You have?
He was nervous about maybe coming on because, well, I don't know. I can imagine that a lot of the questions he had, or a lot of times Christians talk to them, they're like trying to get him to come back, And I do want to share one thing, because whenever I was in Bible college, this guy, it's his total side story, but just tell you this. I went into this guy's room one day, and he had like a golf ball like on his hand. He wound up punching like the door because like his girlfriend broke up with him.
Oh my gosh!
And broke his hand. So this guy, he wound up dropping out right afterwards. But I went with him to the hospital, and for that, and the doctor's like, he's about to give him like something to put him asleep, and he looks at me and he goes, "Watch this," and then he puts it into him, right, and he's just standing there, and he's like, "What's wrong?" Like he goes, "Did you use drugs?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." He's like, "What?" He's like, "Cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin." And the doctor's like, he's all nervous, but he had to give him another one, wiped him out. But that guy, when he dropped out, I went to go visit him, and I wasn't a Christian myself. I was like doing Bible college for my parents. But he's like, "Oh, just don't try to convert me." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't even really believe this stuff myself." So it's like, I mean, we just hung out and drunk Jack Daniels.
It's amazing you didn't get kicked out.
Yeah, I know. But he had this thing that like you put a balloon in and like the gun cartridges and you inhale it. I mean, we wind up getting high. Like, I mean, it's really bad. But it's like, I shouldn't say you go on and get high with people, but who are deconverting, but to meet them where they're at, to meet them where they're at and to not judge. They don't need judgment. They don't need hatred. They don't need anything like that. So That being said, I want to thank you for joining me today and look forward to seeing you back here on the podcast at www.rtpodcast.com. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Got to make a TikTok, man. I think TikTok would be a good place to reach people. So I want to leave you this outro, and if you can stick around for a quick minute afterwards, just to say goodbye. All right, here we go. Don't forget to subscribe.